All right, everybody, welcome out to another episode of Windshield Time at Mountainland Supply. I am Joey. I'm here with Brandon, our CEO.
Hey.
We're here
everyone.
with Spencer Shorts.
Yeah, we are. Look at your excitement.
The only one enthusiastic is himself. And we're also joined today by Dr. Wes Shaffer. Middle name?
Look at
There's
that.
the clap.
This is high class right
Middle name. Well, I'll tell you what. There's a little story behind that.
Of course there is. There's always a story.
Why
with
isn't there a story? So here's what happened. I was living a lie
Weird.
up until about 05, 06 time frame when the state of Utah, when you go to renew your driver license, they says, hey, bring your birth certificate in so we can match records. So anyway, I take my birth certificate in and the lady says, well, and I didn't even look at my birth certificate. She says, your birth certificate does not have, and in our family, just middle initial only, no name.
Yeah.
So my brothers, David B., I was supposed to be Weston H.
Really?
The H is gone. I told the lady, I said, well, it's on church records.
Church records. That trumps your records all the
And
time.
my social security card, and everywhere else but my birth certificate.
Oh, it's on the Social Security card?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's,
Really?
yeah.
So they screwed up at the hospital.
No, my dad didn't put it on there, I think, is the what. Anyway, so I was living a lie for the first 21 or 22 years of my life.
Yeah.
And here we are. So now, zero middle name and just Dr. Weston Shaffer.
Well, I would actually go with W.H. Shaffer because that sounds very official.
I had a company called W.H. Shaffer Company,
Did you?
and it was a lie. And so, well, so anyway, so middle name for the first 21, 22 years, and now it's gone.
Okay, hold on. Clarify. So just H. So
Yep.
that first 21 years of your life,
Yep,
it was just Weston H. Shaffer.
that's correct. But as a joke, I would spell it out, AITCH,
Like phonetically?
because why not? And so,
Of course he would.
anyway, and yeah, so that's how it was.
W.H. Shaffer.
Yep,
Dr. W.H. Shaffer.
that's right.
Okay, let's get it out there. Doctor.
Let's get it. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
we
So,
need an explanation on this one.
well, and
because
there's-
I've been asked, is he truly
Is
a
he
doctor?
really doctor? I always say yes.
the answer, the honest answer is
Well, the
is,
truthful answer.
is no.
But
If
there's
I
always a
remember
caveat.
correctly, down at our grand opening at Cedar City store, Quinn Brown came up to me, and he's, you know how he kind of gets excited. He's just
You don't say.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So
he,
excited he shakes.
yeah, it was, and he's like, I think you're the only doctor in the whole company, and I vapor locked. I was like,
Vapor lot?
oh
my
yeah,
God.
well.
You're
I'm not at a
such
loss.
You're like such a technician. I
I'm
love
not
this.
at a loss for words much.
Yeah.
But I was. And I didn't want to lie to him and be like, oh, yeah, I've got a PhD in hydronics. And no. And so I didn't. I just shook my head and smiled as that was it. So he wandered away thinking,
You legit are a doctor.
He's a
oh,
doctor.
yeah, absolutely. And to this day, up until now, Quinn, terribly sorry, I didn't tell him any different.
The truth always comes out on Windshield Time.
Here it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And so
We get to the bottom of things.
We do.
where I think it originated when I was filling out, and I have done it far before this, but it stuck here at Mountainland. I was filling out for all the email teams and all that, and it says, "What's your
Prefix.
prefix?"
The
And I was like,
salutation
"Well, I
or
got to
whatever.
put something." So I'd put Dr. Wes Shaffer Senior.
Of course.
There's no
I
junior.
have to fill it out.
And yeah. So anyway, then and I didn't realize the consequences of that, of it showing up on all my work stuff.
Yeah. And now it does.
And then, of course, you are real thrilled to call me the doctor. Quinn was
The good doctor.
happy to know that I was a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Piled higher and deeper is that PhD. And so, anyway, that's where that went. I do not have a PhD. You can, for I think a low cost of 4 payments of $29.95,
Uh-huh.
become a reverend doctor on the internet.
Now, hang on a second. Don't be toiling in that because I am a true reverend.
You are.
of the Universal
many-
Life Church.
How many
One payment of $39.95.
how many people have you married? Is that the purpose for it?
Yeah, I've married 2 people.
Really?
Yeah.
Way to go.
I married James Calvert, and I married Chris McGarry.
So just recently.
Yeah, man.
For both of them.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
I went on and became a reverend for Chris McGarry
I see.
because he and his now wife wanted me to marry them, but I didn't have the credentials.
So for an additional 3 easy payments of the $29.95, you can have the doctor. You could be a Reverend Dr. Joseph Little.
That might be worth it.
You're a reverend. You're a lord.
That's true. That's
So-
just through marriage, though.
Do you own property? What? You're a lord?
So my wife, I bought my wife a piece of ground in Scotland, Aberdeenshire,
Nice.
Scotland. It's 12 inches by 12 inches.
Put a couple of cattle on that piece of
But
property.
anytime you own property in the country of Scotland,
Yep.
you are a lord or a lady. And so they send you a document that says that she is Lady Tawny Dawn Little
Phenomenal.
of Aberdeenshire. So by marriage, that makes me a lord.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm Dr. Lord Joseph.
The whole story of this, though, is I remember we came in one time and he was all excited,
Oh, hell
all
yeah,
giddy
man.
about it. And it was very popular on like Facebook and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
That there's a bunch of ads. This was what, 2 years ago or something like that.
It's been like 6 years.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a while ago, but I remember coming in here and he was all giddy to tell me that I got this, and I just looked at him. I remember I was like, "You realize it's just like some big old fat dude that's sitting in a warehouse in New Jersey that's just printing off these certificates
Because that's
and
where they
mailing-
ship from is New Jersey,
and
US.
mailing them out
Yeah.
to you to say that you do it, and there's no land out there."
Oh, that's
Well, it's kind of like
fantastic.
when you buy a star.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
sure.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. Like, I named a star after you. But like my wife is totally into she comes, like, her family hails from Scotland
Oh,
in
I see.
certain lines.
Yeah.
And she's totally into like bagpipes and stuff like that. So, I mean,
This just
what do
added
you
to
buy
the
a person that has
memorabilia.
everything, right?
Sure.
And she
You
has
get 'em a
everything.
Buy him a
property.
title.
You buy him a title.
Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She is lady.
So I think doctor would go right in line with that.
100% it
But
does.
then you would have to choose, though, that salutation. Like, which one do you go with?
It depends on the
Lord,
audience.
Mr.,
I
doctor.
honestly, I hate to say this in front of a doctor, but I think Lord is more impressive.
I
Lord
think you're
Joseph.
right. But remember, I'm not a doctor. But I'll take a look.
You've used that one once or twice.
Every time I see him.
on stage down to
Yeah, you did.
Mesquite.
Yeah.
Boy, that turned into a train wreck. But no, it was good. Anyway, so
So, do you ever get asked? I mean, the people that actually believe that you're a doctor, do they ever ask, like, in what field?
no, because it's only been Quinn that wanted to really dive in to
Oh,
learn.
so it's only Quinn that's ever asked you if you
and
really
it's
are.
only Quinn that's correct. Yeah, that I've led astray.
Everybody.
Everyone else just makes this assumption that I'm either completely full of crap or
Which is
Wait.
easy to assume.
Yeah, after
Yeah.
meeting you.
Yeah.
sure, or that like, oh, he's a doctor. We don't care. Move on. So anyway, it's just something fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, I like it.
So, is it just here at Mountainland that people call you doctor, or has it gone outside of
It
Mountainland
has
now?
spread.
Well, it's on Facebook.
Because that's on Facebook. You have it's Dr. Wes
It
Shaffer.
won't let you put a prefix on Facebook. I've tried. But like on Amazon, thinks I'm doctor. All the neighbors that end up with our packages are like, oh,
What about like because you can do that for like your credentials for Delta.
yep. Oh, yeah. Delta Airlines United believes I'm a doctor.
So,
Yep.
dude, I can totally get this. You're going to the gate, and the gate agent goes, scans your boarding pass, and I'm like, oh, Dr. Schaefer. And they
Welcome
look at
aboard,
you,
Dr. Schaefer.
Doctor?
Yeah. And then when they holler,
Is there a
somebody's having
doctor on the
heart
plane?
attack, is there a doctor on the plane? I'm like, well, I can save him as a PDF is all I can save him. And it's like, well, okay. But there's not much other saving that I can do beyond that, though.
Save them as a PDF. Oh my gosh.
That's the extent of my saving. Anyway, no.
So my cousin is a doctor, right? He's the head physician for Utah State Athletics, right? So he's legit. I mean, he's a PhD or not a PhD, an MD.
Yeah.
So we're at the Yankees game like 2 months or a month ago. So because me and my two cousins went out there for the last regular season game of the year, and this lady in the section next to us collapses, right? Or no, it's a boy like collapses. And so everybody's screaming, like, we need security over here. We need a doctor. His mom's screaming, My cousin looks over and he's like, he's responsive. I'm like, you're a doctor. Like, doesn't that go against some sort of code, an ethics code?
The
that
unwritten
you know,
code.
do no harm?
Okay, so I had something happen like this just recently too. I was on a flight. It's a red eye.
Yeah.
And I was actually I was with a few other people from our company. I was actually sitting next to Bruce Egbert. And so I had closed my eyes. I had my AirPods in and I noise canceling, everything
Trying to
like
zen
that.
out.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I just hear this boom. Something hit the floor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we hit something. But something like brushed against my leg because I always sit on the aisle.
I have to. Absolutely.
So I go and I'm like trying to wake up and like look, and I'm looking at the ground and there's this guy just passed out. Just
in the
right
aisle.
there in the aisle, everything like that. I'm like, holy crap. So I leaned over to like shake him to see like, are you responsive or anything like that? Before I could do that, some guy from the very back just comes rushing up. Yep. Don't touch him, don't touch him, don't touch him. Don't move him. I'm like, dude, I'm not even moving. I'm just trying to see if the guy's dead or not. And so we're sitting there and this guy's like trying to do something. I think he might have been like an EMT or something, or a retired EMT, I think it was. Anyways, we're sitting there and they're trying to do this. The flight attendants are like bringing up oxygen. They have like a red emergency bag that they have to break a tag, and like it's getting intense, right? Finally, they come over the intercom. I mean, it's a red eye again. People are sleeping. They're like, "Is there any medical professionals on here? Is there a doctor? Anything like that?"
Oh man!
And so now everybody's just kind of like looking around, like, "Is anybody going to stand up here? Anybody?" And nobody does. And across the aisle, I have Matt McAllister sitting there, and the guy sitting next to him. I'm looking over at Matt, like, dude, nobody's like getting up. And the guy next to him, you just see him like, oh, just this utter disgust, like,
I'm a doctor.
all hell. But it was like probably 3 minutes, 4 minutes of just seeing like, will someone else do this?
Yeah.
Wow.
And finally he gets up and he comes out there and, he works on him and everything. And the flight attendant's right there. So I'm talking to her. I'm like, so like, are we diverting? Are we not? And she's like, we got to decide in the next 5 minutes if we're diverting or not. The pilot wants to know. And
Wow.
everything like that. And the doctor, he just goes and he's like sitting him up and everything. Like, he's like trying to get this guy just back in his seat because he doesn't want to get diverted. He just wants to get to where we're
Let's
going.
get him sentient so we don't have to leave.
Exactly. So anyways, I just started cracking up. Like, I was just like, this guy, you could just tell he did not want to help.
Dude,
Oh,
that's
that's
hilarious.
wild.
Did not want to help.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a liability issue. I don't know if it's like, hey, I do this all day long.
Yeah.
This is my vacation.
Yeah.
I'm not helping. I don't know what it was, but I just thought it was so funny that, I don't want to. Like, is anybody else? Come on. Someone else.
Someone else has got to
That's so
jump
funny.
in.
So,
Oh, that's wild.
See, that's what you set yourself up for now, though. They're going to look at your credentials and they're going to be like, Dr. Shaffer, do you think you could assist?
dude, I wonder if they note that.
I bet they do.
I wonder
don't
if they
know.
know. So, hey, we got a doctor here. He's in, seat 24E or whatever. it is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm back here in business class, and go to the first class and find your doctors.
Those are the better doctors.
They're the ones who are really credentialed up there.
Those are actual. You can find their college diplomas and whatever.
We
But
could print off a diploma too, though.
what's real hilarious, and I don't know if you're going to head this direction, but my previous career was so far from being a doctor
Oh, we'll head there.
Oh, yeah.
We're heading
We
there
need
right
to
now.
know this.
that's where kind of the irony is within why I choose to continue the facade.
Just keep going.
So now that you brought it up, you got to
Yeah.
bring in all the windshield wipers
So-
are curious.
Well, and speaking of windshield wipers, are the guests on the show considered the bugs on the windshield?
Yes.
Ooh.
Because they stick around forever, and we're on the internet now. Even a good car
You're like
wash isn't getting
you're
this.
embedded
Wiggy
in the
wash has got
windshield.
nothing on these bugs.
You're embedded in the windshield.
Here we are. So, previous career, when my wife and I first got married in 2011, she was living in Virginia. We get married. I moved to Virginia, of course, and I didn't have anything to do. And so I was like, why don't I go to school to become a mortician and an embalmer? What a brilliant idea.
Who has this like inkling?
Hold on. Did you have wasn't there a family member?
No family members. I had a good friend from high school,
Okay.
and then somewhat of a neighbor that had a farm near to where I grew up, and good family friend. And he had just gotten to be a mortician maybe 5 or 7 years earlier. And I talked to both of them before I got into this schooling, and they're like, "Oh, we love it. It's a great career. It's so fulfilling and whatever." And I thought, yeah, why don't I
and
jump in?
You constantly have a clientele because people are dropping over all the time.
And that was the thing. My wife, she's a tax accountant, CPA, And I thought, well, there's two things in life that are inevitable: death and taxes. Why don't we cover both? We'll be good, whatever. And can you imagine me standing quietly in the corner at a funeral?
No, I cannot.
I was the guy to put fun back in funeral. And so, anyway, I worked there, went to school.
Fun and funeral.
I've got an associate's degree in funeral services.
Yeah.
And then
Is that a tech school? Like, do you go to a tech school?
It's a community college that I went to, and like Salt Lake Community College offers it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. And then there's one in Colorado that offers it. That's kind of local here.
Do you go teach there as like an adjunct teacher?
I do not. No.
Okay.
No, I'm out of the business.
As an adjunct professor, Dr. Wes Shaffer.
Has a welcome, last responders.
Last responders.
Well, that's what they are. First responders save you. Last responders is the last guy to see you naked. Oh boy, we're going to go on the explicit list now.
We're going Mountainland after dark. No, we're good.
After dark. We're good. Let's power on. So, anyway, I find a job in Richfield at a funeral home, and I started that job, and it was a ton of hours. It was hard work, low pay.
Well, and they're not exactly on the clock hours. I mean, you're doing it
You're
anytime.
on.
Yep.
You're on, and it's low personnel and we were doing 40 funerals a month.
Holy cow.
Out of hand. And
Yeah.
we
Wow.
were covering anywhere from, he had a mortuary in Manti, Salina, and Richfield, and so we were covering that whole vein.
And how many people were at the funeral home?
There were 3 funeral directors,
Wow.
the owner and me and one other guy at the time, and then a couple of helpers that would help on funerals
Yeah.
and occasional pickups. But we'd go down to Escalante, which was 2.5 hours south of Richfield, pick one up.
That's where Mike Munson's from.
Is he?
Yeah.
We'd come up to Provo to the hospital or Salt Lake to the hospital to pick them up that were from down there. And so it was a lot of windshield time.
And
You
this
know,
bring it
isn't
full
something that
circle.
you can say I'll be there in 2 days.
No. No. It's something
I'm saying you gotta
you're like, okay, I'm mowing the yard. Okay, eat dinner yourself. I'm out. I just got a call.
Yeah.
I dreaded the phone calling. So anyway, after that stint of embalming, and that was my favorite part of the job, was embalming dead bodies.
My wife's very, very interested. She's a nurse, so she's very
yeah.
interested in the embalming process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting, and that was my favorite part of the job. But
what
And
aspect
then
did
eating
you like?
and then eating ribs afterwards.
So after can we go into
Sure. Dude.
So
Yeah.
when they do an autopsy, and they do those up here in Salt Lake at the medical examiner, they split them here and then they Y them
yeah.
up here, and they open you up
Yeah.
and do all sorts of testing and whatever else. Anyway,
Do they then do they just like throw it all back in?
they put it in a nice bag.
The
put it in-
organs are in a bag.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then sew it
Sew it
back
back
up.
up.
Yep. With a baseball stitch.
Okay.
Back up. And then, anyway, then we would pick them back up. The funeral home would take them back and embalm them after that.
Yeah.
And it's a little different process of embalming an autopsy case, but I love smoking meats. And when they're open, you see the ribs, and I would crave ribs so badly.
He's such a sicko, dude.
I know.
I know.
I couldn't help it. You can't help that kind of thing.
Yeah,
thing,
Jeffrey Dahmer said the same thing.
Oh, geez.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What was the aspect of embalming that you liked the best? Like what was it?
Bringing color back to them.
Oh,
To
okay.
actually see, it's a start to finish product,
Yeah.
basically. And so you have a gray human body laying there, and after 2 hours of embalming them, now you're back to...
They look
you
like
bring-
they're alive again.
You bring life back to them, yeah. And then the family
just
has
formaldehyde, or do they have other things they jump into the IV?
So formaldehyde. There's one other it's
It
called. It's been
preserves the
so many
body, right?
years, but formaldehyde isn't used very frequently anymore.
Oh,
it's
it's not.
like something aldehyde. It's an aldehyde, but it's a different.
Okay.
And it depends on the mode of death.
Really?
Of what you use and the strength. Like for example, if they were to die by carbon monoxide poisoning,
Right.
a whole different deal. You use a stuff that in the industry they call it purple Jesus, and it like firms you up.
That sounds like a weed vein. Like,
Well,
you go to
marijuana-
you go to the
a
weed store.
marijuana
Bring me
strip.
that purple Jesus. want
I
some of
don't know
that.
where it came from necessarily, but it's wild. But anyway, it firms them up, and so before you embalm them, you have got to have their hands placed where you want them.
Because it's going to be there. That's where it stays.
Yeah, they go rock solid or
Interesting.
relatively rock solid.
So hold on.
Yeah.
I have so many questions, and this is probably not pertaining to Mountainland, but just so intrigued.
Might be interesting.
So do you dress them first? I mean, like, because
No.
if they're like that, then how are you going to dress them afterwards?
Oh, dude, I've dressed a dead body.
And when I say
and I've
rock
had
solid,
to as well, but to a certain extent.
Right,
you know
right,
what I
right.
mean?
They already have their underclothing.
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
when I say rock solid, it's not like
You can still move
frozen
them.
in a freezer for
Okay.
6 days. It's still somewhat. It's not like this,
Yeah.
but it's stiff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's stiff. So you dress them
After,
afterward.
because
Yeah.
I would
After you're
assume
done
it's going to
preparing
be
'em,
messy.
clean them all up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. You clean them all up because you're getting all the blood out.
Yeah.
You know,
And I've seen like those
replacing
tables,
that.
and they're kind of like
yeah.
channels and everything like that.
Yeah,
where
there's a
they-
whole trough around the
Yeah.
side, and it then drains down at the foot. hmm Yeah, it's wild.
And you wash them up afterwards. And,
Wash them all up, dry them off, pat them down, throw them in the fridge.
The thing that would get to me would be the smells.
Oh heavens!
Because I've smelt formaldehyde. We used to use that on the farm for the cows' hooves because it would harden them and keep them from getting hoof rot and abscesses.
Yep, yep. And that smell in combination with
Just dead body.
death,
Yeah.
is something else. It's like you smell a dead deer on the side of the road. That's nothing.
Oh,
Oh.
gosh.
Yeah, it's wild.
So formaldehyde for me takes me back to high school, like biology.
Oh, yeah, when you're doing frogs and stuff.
And I remember my biology teacher was an old gentleman. I mean, he's dead now, but rest in peace. But he had the strongest cologne, and it was just like this. And so that with formaldehyde, every time I
Got
smelled
like Brute or
Oh,
Stetson.
man.
dude, it's rough. I couldn't do formaldehyde. I couldn't smell it.
Yeah, it was interesting, but it was an interesting job. It was a good learning experience
So
to get into.
the other thing that will always be around is toilets. And so
Yeah.
naturally you went to another long-standing industry,
Yes,
selling toilets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
So after
Bring it
Good
full
segue.
circle.
I love
Yeah.
that.
well, that's a good segue, Joe. So after being a funeral director, and I wasn't a funeral director for long in Utah, maybe like 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And it was like, I got to do
But
something.
in Virginia,
different.
you were before.
Yep. And
How long in Virginia?
All during school. So I was about roughly 2 years.
So 2 years there,
As an
8 months
intern.
here.
Yep.
So about 3 years of doing this.
Roughly,
And
yeah.
you're just like, I'm done.
And that was the end of the road.
So
yeah,
you have to get a different license in every state, I assume.
you do.
Okay.
Yep.
So
is that pretty? Like, are the standards pretty?
is it like $39.95 and you?
No, the state's really proud of their, especially state of Utah. Virginia was probably like $85 or something. State
Yeah.
of Utah, you're like a lot. I mean, I don't even remember. It was like $350.
So-
They're pretty proud of themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have to do continuing education or anything like that?
Yeah, oh yeah, 20
Okay.
or 40 hours a year. Type.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a professional.
It's a
administered-
professional
professional
license.
license,
Yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Okay. Just
Yep.
like my CPA.
Oh yeah, just like
Yeah.
that.
So, but it's the
Or
classes
an
are.
insurance agent license with the state. Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff like
okay.
that. Yeah.
So you still have your license, but it's just inactive. It's not active.
It's not active. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't.
But you
do
still
that.
have your license. You don't lose it.
Yeah, right.
And if you want to reactivate, then you got to
Yes.
take some CEs and get
Correct.
going. Okay.
Yep, yep.
So you could go back to that.
I could. I will not.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I will not.
so you're a funeral director in Utah, and then what made you want to change?
Well, it was the long hours. I didn't know what I wanted to really do, but
Sure.
the long hours, the low pay was, and I agreed to go to work for that type of money. So that was not as big of a deal, but the hours were killing me. I mean, I was easily between 80 and 100 hours a week.
Were you living in Elsinore or where?
In Central Valley, yeah,
Okay.
just south of Richfield there. Yep. And so I was looking for something. So I actually, there's a fertilizer outfit that puts and sells fertilizer and chemicals on farms.
Which helps things grow. It doesn't help them prepare for death. Okay, so
Correct.
now you're closer
Yeah, so
to
now
toilets.
we're coming back more to springtime type of career instead of fall time where everything's dying. So
The
then,
analogies.
hey, I went to work at that outfit for, I think it was about a year, maybe a year and 2 or 3 months. And my time was coming to a close there for various reasons. And Brian Johnson,
lives in Central Valley.
Yep, he
Knew
was
ya.
kind of a neighbor there, and I got to know him over the time I was working. And I think we had done some spraying on his place that I really got to know him a little bit better and stuff. And so anyway, I went and visited with him, and he says, "Hey, we'll buzz up to the store, go find Bryce and bamboozle him a little bit."
Bamboozle,
And
which
so-
is easy for you.
And what's funny
Spinning
too,
a yarn is not hard.
that's right.
Yeah.
What's funny too is before I went to the fertilizer outfit, I went and interviewed, and I think Brian was the manager at that time.
When you interviewed the first time in
the
Mountainland.
first time.
Okay.
And then he says, and it was for a driver position. And they says, "Oh, we found somebody else." I said, "Okay, that's no big deal. I got this other deal in Salina, so I'll go do that." So I went and did that. Then it came around again, so I went back to Brian. He says, "Now I'm no longer the manager up there. Go talk to Bryce." And so then I got hired in as a delivery driver.
Right.
Yep. And that was quite a deal. And
Yeah.
and
And we noted before that, Bryce Wheeler is phenomenal, but this is the one black mark that he has.
is hiring me.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. Sorry,
And that-
Bryce.
Luckily, he has enough deposits
Yeah.
that he can have a withdrawal
That
every
he
once
can
in a
have a
while.
withdrawal. This is a big
what we
withdrawal.
recognize though is that even good people make mistakes.
Even Bryce can make a mistake. So you started as a delivery driver.
Yep.
And then you worked in the service crew as well.
Yep. So I was.
Is that where you went right after delivery driver?
Yeah, I was delivery driver. I started March of 16, and then it was January of 17. I started on the service truck working with Dale Bear,
Yeah.
and you better be on your game if you're going to work with Dale.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
dude
he knows
don't-
what he's doing.
He don't take a lunch,
Yeah.
and I'm a lunch guy. And so it was a little bit of an adjustment for both of us.
Sure.
Because I quickly learned we don't certainly go anywhere for lunch.
No,
if
no,
you
no.
want to eat,
You pack it with
you
you.
can peel off and go eat, but I ain't coming to the back of the pickup with you to eat type of deal. It's like, go do it and then come back to work 3 minutes when you're done having your sandwich.
That Dale, man,
And
he's a stud.
He is. And you got to keep up to him because that's the neat thing I like working with him, having him as my supervisor was, you get some supervisors that say, go do the work.
Right.
He's one that you as the subordinate to that, you've got to keep up with him. And it was
Yeah.
fun. It was cool. And he's willing to teach you anything,
Yeah. And
whether
he
you want
knows-
to know it or not.
He
will
knows
teach it to
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
His wealth of knowledge is
Brilliant.
crazy.
Yeah, and he's been in and about a lot of things too.
Yeah.
It's more than just pivots or pumps or
Yeah.
VFDs. It's a whole whatever. I mean, you have trouble with your smoker, you call Dale and he can walk you through.
Well, yeah, what's crazy is
troubleshooting
I consider myself like a jack of all trades, but I am definitely a master of none.
Right, yeah.
But his wealth of knowledge isn't just broad; it is deep.
It is very deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he knows so much about so much.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got to learn from him. That was neat. And I was on the service truck for about a year and a half. It was about September. I think it was September of 18 that I got off the service truck and went into outside sales
Yeah,
in selling pivots, agriculture, irrigation.
yeah,
And so I had Daisy chained up the way there. And then from outside sales, that's where we come to.
we plucked you from outside sales for sales manager.
That's correct.
Yep.
And I know it. To my understanding, it was a 4-1 vote on the executive team to not let it happen.
Oh, I was a no.
Yeah,
I know that.
I
I might have
You told me
been
that.
the one.
You may have been the tipping point. But I think that was
4-1.
about April
Yeah.
of 23, so
Yeah.
a year and a half ago, type of deal.
So,
I still advocate to get you off, to fire you.
Still
So,
working toward that.
Every time we have a quarterly and it's the right person, right seat, Wes Shaver, please.
throw him up
Outta
there.
here.
Let's talk
Wes
about
Shaffer
this cat.
for 500.
So you've been doing sales management for about a year and a half.
Yes.
What's your favorite part of sales management versus outside sales?
Oh, what I really like is getting to get to meet new customers that I haven't been around.
Yeah.
I love being on farm and in front of farmers and in with customers and stuff. But it's really fun to get to go with the salesman who's been working with maybe a customer for years.
Yeah.
10, 12, 15 years, whatever it's been, and to see how they interact with that customer, and they're all different.
For sure.
And it's all different, but that's probably my favorite part is getting to go and just to see how they interact differently and handle what they're doing. You know
what's interesting about the agricultural side of our business is it's not necessarily repeat business, but it is repeat business. It's just in the long term.
Yeah, it's kind of the long game on that deal because, and we actually were discussing this the other day, is, you may have a customer, let's say they buy parts yearly that maybe 20 or 30,000 a year.
Repair parts or whatever.
Pretty consistently, and then all of a sudden $500,000.
Yeah, because they do a big project.
Yep, and then next 2 or 3 years you're back down to 20 grand, and then 250,000 or whatever it is, and it's just like, there are these projects that they're not doing yearly.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of fun about it too is you do get to keep that relationship with the parts sales with them, but then those big projects show up and you got to go throw some pivots on the farm.
The other unique thing too about them is you might not get a sale every year from them. I mean, you get the repair parts, but the other thing, you might get the neighbor.
Right, because
you might get the guy,
definitely.
Oh
talk.
my gosh, that community
or a
is,
son-in-law
yeah,
or whatever
exactly.
it is. Yeah,
It's such a tight knit group.
Very much
that you can't stub your toe with someone.
No,
because that might rule out a few projects for you.
Well,
especially in that area, that town, that valley, whatever it is.
The
our
industry is
very
very
best
tight.
advertisement is that word of mouth of the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Those guys are sitting around. They're like, "Hey, you just put those pivots in." They'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
They will tell their neighbors the good and the bad and the ugly, and if there's bad, of course that gets highlighted, which is never a good thing for anybody. But that's a big deal.
And their expectation too, this is coming from the finance side, is I can handshake on $500,000 and I'll pay it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And from a finance guy, I'm saying no. We need to have documents. We
Secure.
need to have, something. I need a signature or something like that saying you're going to pay. And you can. I remember coming into it and Brandon Roy being like, no, he's good. He shook his hand on it. And I'm like, yeah, but is he? Is he now? Like, what happens if he stiffs us? Or he won't stiff you.
Yeah.
But I can't. I mean, it took me a while to get over that and kind of trust that it's going to happen. And we've been burned in the past, but I'll tell you, it's few and far between. Yeah, it does happen.
What's interesting about the agriculture or the farming or whatever, like even John Deere Credit, that's a finance company.
Yeah.
They do not report bad credit.
Really?
Huh.
And the one fellow I was talking about that, he says John Deere Credit will not report bad credit because if they're to that point, they've got other problems as well. So we're going to leave them alone.
No kidding.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So
yeah.
Another caveat to ag sales, at least in Utah, is the government funding that can help somebody purchase that material.
Yeah.
Will you kind of explain that to the windshield wipers, like how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually a brand new program that just came up. I'll talk about that one first. So the state of Utah has got the program, and it's called the Utah Water Optimization Grant. And what it does, and you can apply for up to a $500,000 credit from the state. So it can be $1 million job. If you get approved on it, they will pay 50% of that job.
Oh.
So if you have $1 million pipeline job to improve your water system, to optimize your
The
water
new standards,
use,
yeah.
Yep, then they will pay 50% of that project. So that's the state of Utah program, and that could mean that you're going from wheel lines to pivots. It could mean that you're going from dirt ditch to wheel lines even.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Or there's even water companies that are running on these dirt canals that they're going into pipelines,
Right.
to help conserve that water. Because out of those canals and ditches that are dirt, you lose a ton of water.
And not just into the ground, but into evaporation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Open air, going into the ground. Because you can go anywhere on any ditch bank and you see willows growing.
Yeah.
They're robbing that water as well.
Yeah.
All the weeds and foliage that's not necessarily useful is taking that water. And so if they put it in a pipeline,
That eliminates that issue.
It eliminates, you don't lose as much water. So they're trying to attempt to do some of that to help conserve water, just in the matter of not losing losing it to some outside forces.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of federal programs, one of which is called the EQIP program, EQIP, and it there's a whole scoring system on it, similar to the state one, that the federal government, the NRCS office, administers, and it's a 15-year contract. You put in for it, then they pay out. If it's a pivot, they pay out per acre. Because, for example, a part circle pivot covers half the acres of a full circle pivot.
Sure.
So they only pay per acre type of deal, and then they fund wheel lines. And in fact, a couple of years ago, they actually funded converting from a dirt ditch to a concrete ditch, which was a little shocking to me, but they did.
Instead of going straight to pipe.
Yeah.
Is that what it was shocking to you? Or?
Yeah, or putting a pivot or a wheel line on the place, because they're irrigating out of this
Yeah, they're
ditch.
still and wasting a ton of water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's what was shocking. But there are different sections within the funding that they say, okay, there's $1 million allocated.
You know that
to
concrete
this.
ditch, there was someone somewhere that needed that to happen.
Yeah.
And so they got it passed.
Right.
And that's the only one that I'm aware of recently that's been put in with NRCS money.
And that was that a limited time or is it still going?
Still
Still
going.
open? Okay.
Yep, still going. And so like
Still
gated pipe.
available. Wow.
Yep, and gated pipe that we sell, it can be wrapped into that deal. And the thing too is these farmers can utilize both these programs on top of one another,
Get it all paid for?
and all but 10%.
Wow.
So then the state and federal come in and say, okay,
Because they want you to still have some skin in the game.
yep,
Yeah.
and that skin in the game can be labor. So they may not come up with any cash.
Really?
Yes.
Can be equity, sweat
Yep.
equity.
So they can
Wow.
come up with some labor, dig the trenches with their backhoe, some fuel, and different things, and call that their 10%,
Yeah.
and just bill it to whatever market rate is on labor.
So what's interesting, and the reason why I asked that is there are a lot of farmers out there that don't have the education of those programs.
Yep.
And so part of your job and your team's job is to go out and educate the population on those programs that can help them
Oh yeah.
do these projects. And the government's interested in it because it helps with the watershed. It helps
Yep.
with water conservation. We're interested in it because it helps people not just purchase an item, but to do a larger project over time.
Oh yeah. Well, and I mean pivots for a quarter-mile machine, you could be $120,000,
Yeah.
and you're on full circle, you're covering about 120, 125 acres, and so you're around $1,000 an acre, maybe after the complete project with a pump and pipe and all that, you're maybe $1,200-1,300 an acre, but that's expensive,
Oh,
especially when flood is growing a good crop.
Yeah.
Why would the grower
Why would you
want to
wanna
go
change?
spend the money when flood is working?
Yeah.
And so that's where some of these programs are very beneficial for that, and we help the growers fill out their applications if needed.
Yeah.
The ones that have done it, several times, that they're pretty in tune
understand
with
the
it.
process.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
pretty good with it. But yeah, there's some neat programs. There's also a couple other programs. So one of our wheel line movers is a solar mover, and it actually falls within the guidelines and the qualifications of the REAP grant, that is the solar grant stuff on
Really?
the federal side. Down to Monticello area, I don't know the exact town, but Alan Barry had sold 3 movers to one guy that was awarded that grant, and it essentially paid for one of the movers. when he
Wow.
It's
put
amazing.
3 in it. So,
So
there's
crazy.
programs available for, a lot of stuff that we can capture. And we attempt to research those and understand what those programs are, so we can help our growers take advantage of that.
So, and we're getting really long on time, so I want to kind of get close to wrapping it up. But you and your team do a program called Agstravaganza every year.
Yep.
Where you'll bring in growers and you'll educate them on those items and a myriad of other things, because your sales vertical also touches geotextiles, because soil stabilization is important to a farmer or a grower.
Yeah.
Pond lining is also very important, so they don't have the loss through the pond walls.
Absolutely.
Pumps are very important. So you'll bring in those verticals, and then they also get a touch with those customers so they can help them with their entire project.
Yep.
Which is, it's not totally unique to your vertical, but it is awesome that you have that cross collaboration between other verticals.
Yeah, and I think what's unique, not strictly the ag vertical, but the ag vertical where I think it's mostly unique is we sell to the end user.
Right.
And so we provide that ag extravaganza, and that's where we can wrap in our other verticals to come in and train the end user who's going to be using these products, how to winterize their pivot, and and we'll bring in, I think this January we're scheduled to have Jim and his crew come in and teach about pumps.
Yeah.
And Dale and his crew will come in and teach about maintenance, winterization, safety, that type of stuff. And so it's pretty neat, that we get to do that. We usually have one out to Roosevelt and then one either in Nephi or Richfield.
Yeah. And how many farmers do you typically get to come to those?
We get roughly about 50 farms represented at each one.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Especially for a grower to take time out of their day, because farmers, the work never stops.
No. Yeah.
So they have to go away from their work to become educated. And the fact that they do it year over year is incredible to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we do. It's a pretty good showing of our customers, and we're there to support them.
Yeah.
We want to help them. We want them to be successful. And there's been guys that are like, why do you teach, these farmers to fix their stuff? You're in the business to fix their stuff. And it's like, if they can fix it themselves, more power to them type of deal. And we want them to be able to be self-sufficient, because it's expensive to do anything anymore. And so it's a good service that we try and provide. And, of course, we have a great lunch. Like I said earlier, I'm a lunch guy. And so anyway.
All about the food.
That's why I show up too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we appreciate when you do.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. It's really really a neat program that we get to do usually in January that we have those.
So I have a soft spot in my heart for the agricultural vertical, just because that's my history goes back to that. I love being around that customer base. They are extremely loyal, like Brandon was saying. If you can't stub your toe with them.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you don't stub your toe with them, then they don't have the desire to look anywhere else, because you've already created that solution for them. You've already made their business better. And so the loyalty is there, and they keep coming back. And I love that about that customer base.
Yep, absolutely. And that's part of what we're finding, or what we've known, that is very challenging to crack into a new area.
Yeah.
It's just tough because they're latched on.
They have a relationship
with somebody
already.
that's offering them a great service.
Yeah.
And so it's tough, but we're making it work.
No, you guys are awesome.
We're making it work.
So if you could give one word of advice to somebody who's just starting in Mountainland, what would that word of advice be?
To be curious, to ask questions, and you hear a lot of guys say, and they'll even tell you, hey, I got a dumb question. Well, the guy you're asking more than likely is thrilled to offer his knowledge to you. So go ask questions. Here at Mountainland, it is, I believe, and I believe this with all my heart, that this is the land of opportunity. Because if you come in as a delivery driver and you have an interest in HVAC, you can start heading that direction.
Yeah.
Or if you have an interest in turf irrigation, you can, and it's being curious is the only way you're going to get there.
Absolutely.
And you don't need a college degree.
Yeah.
You just have to be wanting to work and wanting to go to work, and fortunately at our company, we're a company of thoroughbreds and not donkeys. When
I'm excited to hear this euphemism come to
when we
light.
have donkeys, they leave or convert to a thoroughbred.
Okay.
But as a high performing company, we can't have donkeys here.
Oh,
so, I mean, we can't. You
don't have
cannot
time
exist.
for it.
Yeah, you don't have time for that. And the donkey that's here is like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
Yeah,
They feel too uncomfortable.
So that's where that curiosity steps in, though, too, because I mean, you're either growing or you're dying.
I love it.
And so get curious is probably my word of advice of,
That's great.
ask questions.
I love it.
You
dude.
know, so
Get curious.
Yep.
yep.
Great
love it.
principle to have,
Yep.
Very much.
especially in business.
Yep.
Get curious.
Get
Yeah.
curious, not judgmental. That's James Calvert's favorite saying. you
Yep.
know.
Well,
love it.
that's you can live by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold off on the reaction. Get curious first. Yep.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, thank you for your time, Doctor. I know that it is very valuable. You have lives to save.
You got
Oh,
patience
geez.
waiting for you.
You have lives to end. But we appreciate you, and we want you to know that we love you and appreciate you, man.
Well, I love you too. Love you guys.
Yeah,
This is
love you,
great.
man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
Well,
Mostly.
not. I was going to say not anytime. We'll make sure it's an invite only.
That's
Most
right.
times, yeah.
So it might have to be a while, maybe never again.
Send me a calendar. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Don't call us, we'll call you. All right. Well, thanks for your
Yep.
time again, bud.
Yeah, thanks.
And thanks everybody out there for jumping in and spending some windshield time with us. We'll catch you down the road.
Have a good one.